Tractate Oholos, General Introduction. Tractate Oholos, which means tense, deals mainly with the laws of tumas mace, the tuma of a human corpse, discussed by the Torah in Bamidbar chapter 19. Like some other sources of tuma, such as the nevela, dead animal, a human corpse makes things tame through touching, or by being carried. However, the Torah teaches that a corpse also makes something tame through ohel. That is, if a corpse is in a tent, the tuma spreads to everything else in the tent, no less than if the corpse actually touched them. This way of making something tame is unique to a corpse, and it is from this unique tent feature that our tractate dealing with the laws of corpse tuma gets its name, Oholos, tents. 1. Mace, the highest level of tuma. Another special feature of a corpse is that it is a greater source of tuma than any other source. As taught in the first chapter of Kalim, there are many different levels of tuma. And in general, when something tame makes something else tame, the tuma of the second thing is one level lower than the thing that made it tame. For example, a nevela, dead animal, sheretz, the carcass of one of the 8 small animals listed in Vayikra chapter 11 verses 29 through 30, or a zav, a man who has a certain type of unusual emission, is an av hatuma, literally father of tuma. If an av hatuma touches a person or utensil, the person or utensil becomes a rishon latuma, first level of received tuma. If that person or utensil then touches a food, the food becomes a sheni latuma, second level of received tuma, and so on. In general, the lower level of tuma something has, the fewer types of things it can make tame. A human corpse, however, is an even higher level of tuma and is called an ave avos hatuma, literally the father of the fathers of tuma. Thus, if a corpse touches a person, the tuma goes down one level and the person becomes an av hatuma, even though he is not the primary source of this tuma. And the person he touches becomes a rishon tuma, and so on. A person or utensil that becomes an av hatuma from a source of corpse tuma, for example, a person who touches a corpse, becomes tame for 7 days. In order to become tahor, it is not enough to be immersed in a mikvah. Rather, the person or utensil that is an avatuma must also be sprinkled on the 3rd and 7th days with mei chatas, the special water mixed with the ashes of the paraduma, red cow. 2. Which parts of a corpse transmit tumas mace? In order to transmit tuma, the corpse does not have to be complete. A kazayas of flesh from the corpse transmits tuma just like the corpse itself, as does the whole limb of a corpse, even if the limb is small and does not have a kazayas of flesh on it. A revius of the corpse's blood, or a significant amount of its bones. See Mishnah chapter 2, Mishnahs 1 and 2. All these transmit tuma even through ohel. A piece of bone the size of a barley corn, a barley kernel, also transmits corpse tuma, but only through touching or being carried, not through ohel. See chapter 2, Mishnah 3. 3. Other things that transmit tuma, like the corpse itself. The sealed grave of a corpse, or of part of a corpse, also transmits corpse tuma. See chapter 7, Mishnah 1. As do some of the graves supporting structures. See chapter 2, Mishnah 4. A sword or similar utensil that touches a corpse also transmits corpse tuma, similar to the tuma of the corpse itself. This law is known as the sword is like the one who was killed. We learn this from the verse that says, anyone who touches on the open field someone killed by the sword, or someone that died, or a human bone, or a grave, shall be tame for 7 days. See Bamidbar chapter 19, verse 16. The words, someone killed by the sword, come to teach that the sword is like the one who was killed. That is, the sword that touched the corpse is an ave avos hatuma, just like the corpse itself. This law applies not only to a sword, but even to other utensils that touch any corpse, even if the utensil was not the murder weapon. As in ave avos hatuma, the sword or other utensil then makes the person or utensil that it touches an avatuma, one level lower, that is tame for 7 days and requires sprinkling with the waters of the para aduma. 4. An ohel for tumas mace. The Torah speaks of a corpse being in a tent, Bamidbar chapter 19, verse 14. The same applies, however, to a corpse, or piece of a corpse that is in a house, under a roof, or in any covered space that is at least a tefach cubed, that is, a tefach wide, a tefach deep, and a tefach high. If the space is smaller in any one of these dimensions, the covered area is not considered an ohel, and the tuma of the corpse does not spread to other things under that covering. There is also another slightly different type of tumas ohel. That is, the corpse and the person or utensil that becomes tameh do not even have to be under a tent at all. Even if the corpse is suspended over the person or utensil so that the corpse is like a tent over it, or it is suspended over the corpse so that it is like a tent over the corpse, the thing becomes tameh from being over or under the corpse. For this type of tumas ohel, there is no minimum of a tefach required. Even if a thin needle that is much smaller than a tefach is suspended over a corpse, so there is no tent of a tefach over the corpse, the needle becomes tameh by being over the corpse. And even if a thin strip of corpse is suspended over something that can become tameh, that item becomes tameh because a corpse is over it. An ohel of a tefach cubed is significant not only in regard to spreading the tuma of a corpse to other things in the ohel, but also in regard to blocking the tuma from going farther. That is, if a corpse is under an ohel and there is something above the roof of the ohel, that thing remains tahor, even if it is directly opposite the place of the corpse. The ohel that is above the corpse blocks the tuma from going higher. Similarly, if the corpse is on top of the roof, the ohel blocks the tuma on top of it from going down into the area underneath. For this law as well, the ohel must have at least the space of a tefach cubed to block the tuma. If the space is less than a tefach cubed, the tuma under the covering will penetrate to what is directly above, and the tuma that is on top of the covering will penetrate to what is directly underneath. A. Sealed with a cover all around. There is something else aside from an ohel that blocks the tuma of a corpse from coming into it. This is an earthenware utensil that has a cover on it that is sealed all around. The Torah, in Bamidbar chapter 19, verse 14, indicates that a corpse in a tent makes everything in the tent tameh except for what is inside an earthenware container, which cannot become tameh from its outside, whose cover is sealed. The sealed earthenware container shields what is inside of it from tuma. This applies not only to earthenware, but to any sealed utensil that cannot become tameh, for example, a stone container. Unlike an ohel, however, which blocks tuma from coming into it or from going out of it, a sealed container blocks tuma only from coming into it, but it does not block tuma that is in it from going out of it. Thus, if a piece of corpse was in a sealed earthenware or stone container, everything in the same ohel as that container would become tameh. See Kalim chapter 10 and below chapter 8, Mishnah 6. 5. How tumas mace passes from one ohel to another. If two ohalim are right next to each other and there is an opening at least a tefach wide and a tefach high between them, corpse tuma that is in one of them spreads into the other one. Thus, for example, if there are two adjoining rooms in a house and there is an opening of at least a tefach by a tefach in the wall between them, the tuma of a corpse that is in one room will spread to the second room as well. The tuma cannot, however, spread from one room to the other through an opening that is less than a tefach. The same applies where two ohalim are one on top of the other. Thus, for example, if a two-story house has an opening at least a tefach by a tefach in the floor between them, corpse tuma that is in the lower story will spread up through the opening into the upper story. And similarly, if there is corpse tuma in the upper story, it will spread down through the opening into the lower story. The tuma cannot, however, spread through an opening that is less than a tefach. As explained, tuma passes from one ohel to another through an opening of at least a tefach. If, however, the opening is closed, the tuma does not pass through. Thus, for example, if the door to the opening between two rooms is closed, tuma does not pass from one room to the other. There is a case, however, where tuma can go from one ohel to the other, even if the door between them is closed. This is the case of tuma will eventually go out. That is, if the corpse that is in one room will eventually be brought through the door into the adjoining room, then everything in the second room already becomes tameh, even before the door is actually opened. This happens when the second outer room has an opening to the outside of the house, but the first room does not. Since people generally remove a corpse from the house, the corpse in the inner room will eventually be brought into the second room to get to the door to the outside. Therefore, even while the corpse is in the inner room and its door is closed, it is as if the corpse has already entered the outer room and everything is tameh. See chapter 7, Mishnah 3. 6. Tuma retzutza. There is a rule that corpse tuma that is cramped, i.e., it has no place to spread, penetrates up to the sky and penetrates down to the deep. For example, a piece of corpse tuma is on the ground and a board is lying directly on top of it. Since the board is not a tefach above the ground, there is no ohel to spread the tuma to the skies. That tuma is therefore cramped, and it makes tame anything in a direct line above it up to the sky, as well as anything in the ground in the direct line under it. Thus, for example, if there is a utensil suspended high above it, or buried deep beneath it, the utensil becomes tame. The tuma penetrates through the board to what is above it, and through the ground to what is below it. Some Rishonim hold that tuma is considered cramped even if it is out in the open, with nothing on top of it. Since there is no ohel on top of it to spread its tuma to the sides, the tuma is cramped by not being able to spread to the sides, and therefore not only goes up to the sky but penetrates all the way down to the deep.